Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to be trying a new to me brand. So I was recently sent a couple palettes from Alter Ego to test out, and I'm really excited to give these a try. So if you don't know, Alter Ego is one of those quote unquote dupe brands. I don't really like the term dupe. It's used far too much, especially for things that are not dupes at all or not even close to similar products. But a lot of what they do is make affordable versions of high-end and luxury eyeshadow palettes. So they also have liquid lipsticks, brushes, they have an eye primer that they did send me, and I think they make falsies as well. But what they're known for and what I've seen most of my friends that have tried them talk about are their eyeshadow palettes. So I know my friend Kelly did a video on these recently as well, but these are palettes inspired by things like Natasha Denona and Huda Beauty and Pat McGrath and brands that cost, $60 to $100 a palette. And I think it's a really interesting concept for a brand because not everyone can afford to pay $60 to $100 or $130 for an eyeshadow palette. And even if you can, a lot of people I know don't want to spend that much money. So having an affordable option of that is something that I think is kind of necessary in the beauty space. So I'm excited to give these a go and see if the quality is worth it. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I'm a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup with a definite soft spot for indie makeup and high-end makeup. And I tend to take a pretty analytical approach to the content I make, be it trying something new or using something I already know and love. I just try really hard to make analytical, thoughtful content, and I have new videos every week. Right now I have something pretty much every day for the month of December, so I'd love to have you subscribe. So I was sent two palettes from Alter Ego and their eye primer, although I did not pull that out just because I don't need a new eye primer at the moment. But I was sent the Sakura palette and the Mirage palette. So the Sakura palette is inspired by Natasha Denona Retro Glam, which is a palette I don't own, but want, but just haven't bought. But I do own a lot of Natasha Denona. I just posted my Natasha Denona ranking video yesterday, and maybe today. I don't know, time means nothing. And I have a lot of Natasha Denona, so I'm excited to see how this compares. And then the other one is inspired by the Huda Beauty last year's. It was the Empowered palette, I think. But I'm excited to give these both a try. I haven't tried either of the ones that they're directly inspired by, but I've tried Huda Beauty before and I've tried a lot of Natasha Denona, so we'll see how these compare. So for Huda Beauty, those I think retail for around $60 for her big palettes, and this retails for $24, and this is 18 eyeshadows or pressed pigments. This one does say eyeshadow palette. And then this is a pressed powder palette, 15 shadows, 15 grams, and retails for $20, which they are smaller pans, so you're getting less product than Natasha Denona, but hers are $69. So there's a huge price difference there. I don't know where Huda makes her palettes. I think it might be Italy for the big ones. These, and then I know Natasha Denona makes hers in Italy. These are both made in China. They are also cruelty-free, so if that's important to you. I don't remember if Huda and Natasha are. But that can also be a deciding factor on if you're buying something. So really excited to give these a shot. If you're interested in the other makeup I have on, it's a lot of high-end makeup per normal. It's a lot of my current favorites. So I'm wearing my Dewdrop foundation and concealer from Surratt. And then I have my Victoria Beckham bronzer on. And then for blush, I'm trying a new one, which is the Bare Minerals Bronzer in Kiss of Roses. So this was given to me by Cam Clove Room when they were here visiting because this is too dark for them. I don't see this as a bronzer, like blush bronzer hybrid. I do think that that is a thing that can exist, but this is far too rosy to be a bronzer on most people, unless you're a rosy undertone, but it is a really pretty color and is a really pretty blush, so I am wearing that. And then Cam also gave me Victoria Beckham highlighter that they inherited from Hope Miss Tom, so I have a little bit of that on. That is that glow that you see. And then for lips, I am wearing one of the YSL Candy Glazes. This is Nude Pleasure, I think. It's like a warm brownie, like a warm caramel shade. Wow, I can't talk. And it goes well with this sweater. And I think I'm gonna use the Mirage palette, which is a little bit more warm tone today. So I will keep trying these off camera. Obviously, this is just gonna be a first impression. And if you want a video of me trying the Sakura palette, let me know in the comments. But this is the Sakura palette. You can see I've already swatched a few of them. And it is rearranged from Natasha's format, which I do appreciate. I like that they're grouped by color. So you have the neutrals here, the pinks here, and the greens here. And this is a Natasha palette that I never bought because I swatched a couple of the shades at Sephora and they seemed too pale for me. But I do like that it's these taupey colors and greens with this pop of pink. I am excited to try this, and I'm not going to do this one tonight, but I have touched a couple of them and they do feel nice. And I do think the packaging is gorgeous. And then this is the Mirage palette, which I've swatched a few times and I've used a couple of them on the eyes. Really pretty warm neutrals palette. You've got some cool tones in here, which is nice. And then you have these two like eyeliner formulas in here. You have a brown and a black. I've touched the brown a couple times. I wanted to see if it set down, and it does, so I can kind of use that as an eyeshadow base too. And then you've got some bronzes. You've got some like nice orangey warm tones over here. Interesting like marbled effect shadow here. And then this one has like a weird gel running through the middle. So that's interesting. I don't know if texturally I will like that, but we'll give it a go at some point. I think I might want to try to use this shade up here. This Cleopatra shade looks really pretty. Okay, so I think this is the one I'm gonna go with today. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of my eyeshadow base down. It's the same one I use for everything, so it also, you know, that way I can directly compare it to other shadows. And then we'll get into trying the shadows. I'm not gonna do swatches. These have both been out for a little while, and I'm sure there's lots of swatches out there. I'm also wearing long sleeves. But if you wanna see swatches, let me know, and like if I film a dedicated video for the Sakura palette, then I can do some swatches in there too. Just like the Huda Beauty palette, I do think there are like these two, I don't, you know, just like Natasha does that too. There's like two shades, like this is a little bit more yellow, this is a little bit more antique gold, but they are kind of similar, and I think Huda does that a lot, where I think some of the mattes look very similar. But I'm gonna start out with the shade Dune, put that in the crease, and then we might put the brown on my lid. I wanna see, yes, you could use it as an eyeliner, but I wanna try it as a base to make the shimmer really pop. So I'm just gonna grab a fluffy brush. This is a 14 Max from Refer. So this is fluffy and a little domed, and I like that. So I'm gonna try that for my transition. So let's go into Dunes. Picks up very nicely. Looks a little more peachy on the brush than it does in the pan. But let's give this a go. Okay, that's really pretty. I'm gonna scoot in as well. Okay, that is a nice neutral matte. Out really nicely. It's pigmented, but not like too pigmented. Went in a second time, tap off the excess. And I'm just gonna buff that into my crease as a nice base. And then once it's all in the crease, what I tend to do is go over a little bit higher and take the excess up a little bit to make it a little bit more seamless. Yeah, that looks really nice. Okay, let's do that on the other side. Okay, so that blended out really nicely. And obviously you could build a traditional look where you put, you know, maybe that in the crease, put like a slightly darker one in the crease and then keep going. But I really want to see this as an eyeshadow base because it's, you know, gonna be a little bit tacky. Makes for a nice smoky eye. So I'm gonna pick up one more shade, slightly darker. I'm gonna pick up, I think, Tomb. I'm gonna pick that up on this. This is a 15 mini. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that. And I'm gonna put that right here and blend that into the crease as well. This is just a nice thin tapered brush, so I can tap it right here and then blend it into the crease without going too high. So these are blending really nicely. Okay, that looks nice so far, and I'm just grabbing another fluffy brush and I'm just going back over to make sure everything is nice and blended together. Okay, that looks really nice. The matte's blended really nice. I have zero issues with the formula. They're smooth, they're opaque, there was no skipping. They look really nice in person. So let's try one of the shimmer, or that, I wanna try that base first, actually. So I'm gonna grab a synthetic brush for this. This is a Sigma brush. And I'm gonna pick up some of the Crypt shade, which is the dark brown eyeliner. I do think it's interesting that they have the eyeliner formula in there. And I'm gonna pat that. That's really pretty. Nice dark brown. If you're ever wanting your eyeshadow to really pop, using a cream shadow or a cream eyeliner like this, or the melt ones, or one from the drugstore, can really help. And then because this is a slightly fluffy shader brush, I'm just using the end of it to take what's left and kind of buff it out so that there's not a harsh line. I really like that. Okay, this is moving along very quickly. And then I'm gonna grab one of my Rougher 21 brushes. This is my favorite brush for shimmers. And I could go with the more gold shades like Pyramid and Carrot, but I really wanna wear Cleopatra. So let's see how that picks up on a brush. There's definitely some texture there, and it did like kick up a lot around the shadow. But tapping it over this is really pretty. I think is this the one? There was one of these shades I swatched, it might have been this shade, and it didn't swatch very well by itself, but over the tacky base is really pretty. It's not going on. I think I'm gonna try it with a finger. Also, using a brush has caused it to go everywhere. Like, I have it down here in these shadows now. I need to clean this palette. Okay, finger is definitely better than brush. There's a lot of texture to the shadow. So you can see those little speckles kind of migrating up. But I don't have any fallout, which I care about more. It's definitely clinging to, I feel like this shimmer is gonna emphasize texture. So if you're someone who has textured lids, I don't know about the other ones, like Heat and Pyramid look much smoother, and I will do some swatches now because I wanna see. This shadow is definitely, oh yeah, I don't have anything on the other eye yet. This shadow is definitely more textured, and it's showing up more textured on my lid, but that could also be the cream base. We're just experimenting tonight. So I'm gonna put, you can see where I put a little bit of the cream base down earlier. So yeah, this is a very textured shadow. Let's see what Pyramid is much smoother, although it is picking up a bit in the pan. And then here's Heat. So there's a bit of flake on them, you can see. And so like Pyramid has kind of some flaky texture in the pan. The fact that there's now gold sparkle in the black eyeliner is definitely gonna bug me, and why I don't love when formulas like that are in a palette, because you're gonna get mixed no matter what the formula. So I like the way that went on. I'm tempted to just try the dark matte and see how it works on this eye, but I want it to be uniform. So I'm gonna pick up Crypt again on the same brush and just do the same thing on the other eye, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I did it on the other eye. I do really like the way the shimmer looks, and there is that little bit of sparkle effect around the edges. So if you want a perfectly sharp edge, don't use your finger or do something differently, but I don't mind that. It is a really pretty shade, but yeah, it is adding some texture to my lid that I don't actually have, and I don't know if that's the shimmer or the cream or like the eyeliner base, but I have done, you know, eyeliner base under shimmers many times with my melt eyeliners, so don't know which variable it is. I'll have to figure that out in further testing, but I do feel like these are kind of crumbly shimmers so far. I'm gonna see what Conquer is like. That's much smoother, a little more satin. That's really pretty. I would do a smoky eye with that. Yeah, that's much smoother, way less shiny and reflective. So to get the shiny and reflective, you are losing some of that smoothness. Let me grab the Sakura palette. I just want to swatch a couple and see. I'm gonna use my other hand, and then I'm gonna go wash my hands. So there are still some sparkle in there, you can see as the light's hitting it, but they're much smoother and a little creamier. So I don't know if they're trying to like emulate the formulas from, I really like that shade, from each brand. And I don't love Huda's formulas, so that could be part of this, if that's what they're trying to do. I haven't had the best luck with Huda shadows. That could be it. I don't know. But the ones in the Sakura palette are much smoother and less crumbly. They're more of a formula that I prefer. So I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick and we'll be right back to finish the look. So sorry about that little interlude. I'm gonna go ahead now and put a little bit more of the brown Tomb shade, I think, underneath my eye. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of mascara on, and we'll finish the look and video. Okay, so I'm back. I added mascara. This is the finished look. I like the way this looks at the end. I'm still not 100% on the shimmer. I do want to see something, so I'm gonna pick up the Crypt shade again on a brush, and I'm just gonna do some comparisons on the back of my hand. So I'm gonna put a little bit of that down in two spots. Okay, so I've got that down. It's very smooth and creamy, and I'm gonna try picking up that Cleopatra shade. Yeah, I just don't like this Cleopatra shade. And I'm gonna put that on, and then I'm gonna put some next to it as well. And yeah, that's just a really flaky, crumbly shadow. So there it is by itself, built up a few times and over the cream base. And now I'm gonna try it with a different shimmer brush so that there's no mixing. One of the shades from the other palette. So I'm gonna pick up this Live shade, which looks much better. Yeah, that picked up much better. There's no crumble in the pan. It's the shadow, it's the powder, it's the eyeshadow, like the shimmer shadow, not the cream base. Which is what I thought it might be, because putting the other shimmer, which is much smoother, over it, it still is smooth and looks really pretty. So I just don't think the shimmers in this are for me, and that's okay. Cleopatra got over everything and my table. Like, my table is covered in sparkle now, and you can see I don't want to use this black now because of that. I'm gonna need to clean this. So the shade Conquer here is a little bit more similar. And so is this top, like more marbled, not molded, marbled one. Those are still sparkly, but a little smoother, a little thinner. So I think this is just not a shimmer formula for me, but it's nice to have two that are very different, because then I can see that it's not the brand's shimmers, it's the shimmers in this specific palette, versus the shimmers in this palette, which seem much nicer. Not nicer for me, something that I like more. I like textured in a shadow. I don't like this kind of texture. It's a little dry, it's a little crumbly. It's crumbly versus textured. So first impression, really excited to try this now. It doesn't feel identical to Natasha Denona's eyeshadows, but it is that color story, and it does feel really nice. So I'm curious to see how it performs. This one, it's very warm, which I don't go with these orangey tones very often. And all of these shimmers, most of the shimmers are a formula that I don't get along with. So I might end up using this one or two more times to give it some, thoughts. And then I might give it to like my sister-in-law or a friend or someone who would use it more. Because these are not a kind of shimmer that I really enjoy using. But that's not the brand's fault. I mean, they designed the palette, but it's also, a different type of formula. But I am happy to see how smooth the other shimmers are. So really excited to try Sakura. Mirage, it's pretty, and I think for someone who likes these kind of textures, or you like Huda's formula, if this is at all comparable. I know I've had this kind of issue with some of the Huda shadows. I think if you like these kind of more crumbly textured shadows, I think you're really gonna like this. Like, look at this gold. This gold is really pretty. This gold is a little less dry, but you can see there is lots of little particles in it. Yeah, I think it's just, Pyramid also was kind of crumbly though, but I really don't like the Cleopatra shade. It looks pretty on the eye, but I do not like using it, and it's it's all over my shirt, it's all over my table. Not happy with the shadow. The rest of the shadows all worked fine, and the cream base is really nice. So if you're someone who likes having eyeliner in there, or using eyeliners as a cream base, I think this is really great. But because they're in a palette together with shadows, you do run the risk of having what mine did. So really happy that they sent me these. I'm really excited to keep trying them both. I will give this one a couple more tries, and I'm really excited to try the other one, but yeah, I really don't like that Cleopatra shade. Okay, so let me know what you think. Have you tried these before? Have you tried the brand? Have you tried these palettes? If you've tried the Huda palette that this is comparable to, I'd love to know what the formulas are like. Thank you again to Alter Ego for sending me these. Really excited to keep playing with them, especially the other one. And excited to try a new brand. I love comparing formulas and trying things, as you can see. So like I said, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Love to talk to you. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, it helps a lot, and I'll see you in my next video.